Now we're getting into some literal equations where we have multiple variables, so we have to pay attention over here to which variable to solve for. This one we want to solve for y. The y is right there. So we're going to get rid of the terms that do not have the y first. That would be the px. We're going to get rid of that one from the left-hand side by subtracting px. Any number subtracted by that same number ends up being 0, so that is gone from that side. So we'll subtract px over on the other side. That leaves us with by on the left-hand side. And these are not like terms on the right-hand side, so we just leave them separate. We're going to have g minus px. It is okay that we can't combine those. All we have to do now is get rid of this b, and since it's being multiplied to the y, we can undo that with division. So we're going to divide by b. On the right-hand side, we need to make sure we divide everything. So we get g minus px over b. And we're finished. We can't simplify this any further. Nothing is like terms to combine, and we don't know what that division ends up being. This question is very similar to the last question. We just have some numbers instead of variables. We're still solving for x right here. And so we need to get rid of this 9, and we need to get rid of the negative 5y. We're going to do so first by getting rid of the terms that do not have the x. So we're going to add the 5y over on this side to get rid of that. Over on the other side, we have to add 5y as well. These are not like terms here, so we leave them separate. That leaves us with 9x. On the right-hand side, we have 31 plus 5y. And finish this out by dividing by 9. We have to divide both on this side by 9. That gives us x. On the right-hand side, if I could simplify it, I would. There are no like terms or common factors on this, so I can't simplify it, so I'm just going to leave it as 31 plus 5y over 9. And we're finished because the x is by itself. The next question, we're solving for x. We've got x's on both sides, here and here, so we need to get them on the same side. So we're going to do that by adding the 5x over on the right-hand side. Add 5x. X plus 5x ends up being 6x. And all we have to do now is get rid of that 6. We're going to do that by dividing by 6. And we end up with x equals, the m does not divide nicely by the 6 because we don't know what it is. So we're just going to leave it as m over 6. We're solving for m on this one. That means the m right here needs to be isolated. So we have to get rid of this 1/2. We have to get rid of the v squared. Now if you take a look at this notation on the right hand side, the 1/2 is being multiplied to the m, and so is the v squared, so we can undo everything with division. We're going to divide by 1/2, and we know that dividing by 1/2 is the same thing as multiplying by 2 over 1. We multiply by the reciprocal. Over on the left hand side, this is going to work out nicer, because when we do that, 2 over 1 is just 2, and 2 multiplies nicely by the k. So 2 times k is just 2k. Love it. Over on the other side, this ends up being 1, so we're left with mv squared. We can get rid of the v squared all at once by dividing by v squared. We'll divide this side by v squared, and we end up with m by itself. Over on this side, we have 2k divided by v squared. Again, no like terms, so we just leave it like this. We're trying to find the number of hours of labor spent repairing the bicycle. So I'm going to say H is our hours of labor. What's related to hours? Let's see, we've got a cost here, total cost. We've got a parts cost, that's going to be paid once. And then over here, that's what's related to the hours. And so we definitely need to connect that right there. So if I was to write this out in a sentence, I would say that the cost, the total cost, would equal the parts cost plus the labor cost. And we know the total cost, it was $372. We know the parts cost, it was $120. That just comes directly from the question. The labor cost we're going to have to calculate by taking this $42 per hour and multiplying it by the number of hours that we get. That's just 42h. Now we have an equation with h in there, And if we solve for that h, we'll figure out our hours of labor, which is the point of the question. So we're going to solve this by subtracting 120 from both sides. Subtract 120 over here. We end up with 252 and 42h. Finish this out by dividing by 42 on both sides. 252 divided by 42 on the left-hand side is what we need. And that gives us a total of 6. This equation is what should go here for this equation in that blank. And the solution, I'm going to write h equals 6 and with the label of units, hours. Next, we're trying to take a look at wages. So it says, what is your hourly wage? All right, we know our total pay. We know our pay from tips. And the remaining amount was from your wages. Cool. So there were 26 total hours. If we take that 26 and multiply it by our wage, then we get the amount of money that we make from our hourly pay. All right, so we're going to have our hourly pay, which would be 26 times W, I'm going to call it. Let's label W. W is our hourly wage. So 26 hours times that hourly wage will give us our wages for all the hours that we work, the money. We know that we got $311.28 from tips. So I'm going to add that $311.28. And over on the other side, we have our total pay, $372.38. So if we take our pay for our hours, our pay from our tips, that should get us our total pay. That's our equation. That's what I want you to write here. All right, we're going to solve this one just like we did before. So we're going to subtract 311.28. That gives us a total of $61.10. Over here we have 26W. Let me fix that typo there. 26W, divide by 26, divide by 26, and that should give us our wage. That ends up being $2.35 per hour. So our solution, our wage equals 2.35. The units are going to be expressed by putting that dollar sign there. For this last question, we are to find the value for x and then find each angle measure. We need to make sure we do all of that. This information right here is going to be essential for us to write an equation for this situation. Sum means that we're going to add things together, and as you can see, it's telling us to add all of the angle measures together. So we're going to take each of these angle measures and add them up. That gives us 120 plus, here's 100, plus, here's another 120, plus, here's another 120. All right, and then we're going to add these. So I'm going to add the x plus 10 and the x. Doesn't really matter which order you add them up because summing is all right in any order. But we got it all added up and we equal 720. So we're going to combine some like terms. All of these numbers here are like terms. So we got 470 altogether with those numbers. And then the x's are like terms as well. So we get plus 2x right here. On the other side, we get 720. Continuing, we subtract 470 from this, subtract 470 from that, and we end up with 2x on our left-hand side equals 250. Finish this out by dividing by 2, and we get x equals 125. Now let's write down the measure of our angles, and we have a lot of them that are already given to us, so we're just going to write those down. This angle is x, and we know x is 125, so we now know that angle is 125. Over here we have x plus 10, so we got to plug it in. 125 plus 10 is 135. So we now have all of the angles, but let's add them together just to make sure that they sum up to 720 after all. And indeed, they end up being 720 degrees. So we have correctly solved this equation. Thank you everybody for watching, and good luck on the test. Add those all together.